Hey there everyone, my name is Andrew and this is Canadian Starships. Let's see what's on the bench this week. This week on the bench, we are going to try our very best to get the rest of the lighting installation done on the two Enterprise E projects. We have to start by permanently installing those impulse engines, and then we're going to do some interior lighting, finishing off the phaser arrays, adding all the nav and flashers, and whatever other things I'm forgetting right now. But if we can get all of that lighting installed, we can finish the construction of the project, move on to the puttying, and then work on my favorite part, the painting. Now, we're not getting to all that this week, but I'd like to get the lighting installed this week. So let's get right at it.
But before we get started, why not take a moment and click the subscribe button? And while you're here, click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. If you're looking to buy a Tesla and would like to support my channel, you can use my referral code located in the About section of my channel or in the description of this video.
Alright, we're going to be properly securing these in here, but I want to show you something before I do because I have to deal with it. So let's put those boxes aside. You will remember, potentially when we did the test run of these lights, that this window here and this window here shone really red. That's because they actually end up falling under the scope of the lighting box. So what we're going to do is mask off these windows with black electrical tape. Now you may notice here that I've also forgotten to go through and do the masking of the windows where we want the lights off on the inside of the ship. So I'm going to go ahead and mask these two so that we don't get impulse lights coming through. And I'm also going to mask off the other lights we want off before installing these permanently. Now I do have these lens pieces, these frosted lens pieces in place. They have been glued in with the microcrystal clear and they are secured. They've had a good chunk of time to cure. So we'll move on to getting these windows blocked and these ones here and get those impulse engines installed. Impulse engines are permanently installed, and we've got the first bits of the light box for the phaser array installed. So the actual LED strip forms one side of the light box, and then we've got the strip styrene around the side here. Now I'm going to be working on the top of this, and what I'm going to do is I've laid down my yellow masking tape along the top, and I've traced out the shape, and you can see this here. I'm not sure how well those pencil marks will show up on camera, but then I cut them out and I transfer them to pieces of styrene, and I cut it into smaller strips just to make it easier to place them onto the styrene and make best use of the styrene sheet as possible. And then I will cut them out and put them together, glue them on here, and that will create the full light box. We will then go and light block all of the seams for this, just to keep as much of that red light in as possible. Pieces are now cut out, and if I did my job properly, they should nicely sit on top of the phaser bank like that. And there is some wiggle room. I did make them a little bit wider than necessary. It's fine for it to overhang the phaser array here, and I'll piece those on, epoxy them in place, and that will keep all of that lighting contained. So the cutout pieces to create the top, or bottom in this case, of the light box have been epoxied in place, and everything fit properly. So the tracing and cutting and everything worked out properly. So those have been epoxied in place, and they're being held down in place by masking tape at the moment. Once that's cured, I will release it. I do have a little bit of an end cap to add here, but that'll be the phaser array fully installed, and I'll just need to go through and do some light block painting just to seal all of that light in. Working on some interior lighting, I've got the interior lights for the saucer wired up, and they're just temporarily stuck to this piece, and they're working really well. I've been working on adjusting the coloring of the light. It's a little tricky with these LEDs that are color changing. Now, if I put the top on, you should be able to see that the light gets everywhere where it needs to get. And if I turn off the overhead light, you can really see that the light gets everywhere that it needs to get. Now, one thing that you can see is that there are light leaks with the phaser array, so that just tells me that I need to Remember to go through and paint black over the phasor array light boxes, which I was intending to do anyway. It's just a good reminder that I actually need to do that. So this lighting test is successful. It shows me that I've got the lighting where it needs to be, and I don't have to overdo it on the number of LEDs that are inside the ship. So I'll get that painted up, and we will then be able to get these permanently installed. On this particular kit, these have been running for 24 hours. I have to wire up the ones for the other kit and get them testing for 24 hours, but I can get other work done on this while those are doing their 24-hour burn-in. So since I've got the lighting connected, I thought it'd be nice to try to see a few different ways of using lighting, like, say, Borg invasion mode. And what would happen if the entire ship decided to go to, let's say, red alert? So, red alert. I don't know if these kind of different modes will be something that we add to the ship, but it's kind of interesting just to play around with what's possible on these LEDs. So now that I've got the LEDs permanently installed onto the bottom saucer section here, we are working on wire management. You can see that this is a bit of a rat's nest, and this looks a little bit more organized. So what we do is run each wire deliberately so that we are avoiding blocking any windows, or running wires close enough to windows where you can kind of see the color change inside, because you don't want to see a window with the red inside. So, I mean, these windows are pretty small. That's a pretty low chance, but we don't want to block any of the windows. So they've been run meticulously. I'm going to go through now and epoxy these down just up until where I've got them taped off, and then we're going to consolidate this mess at the back so there's only one wire per lead, so one ground, one positive, one data line. Now if you're curious about the data, we're doing maximum 8 LEDs per strip, so that's what's going to be in the coding for the window lights. But as long as I am splitting off of the original data line, then it doesn't matter how many I have attached. It'll read each of these, or send the data to each of these, as if it's the first 8 in the line. We are running parallel, not in series on that. Taking a quick look at the secondary hulls of the two Enterprise E's here, which we're not currently actually working on since we're doing the lighting for the saucer section, but I did notice, just having a quick look, that I forgot to put the light blocking for the windows on the insides. This would have been a lot easier to do had I done it before assembling the secondary hull, but there's still access at this point to be able to put those in, and I need to do that now because of how we added the LED for the quantum torpedoes. See, we're gonna have to assemble this a little bit differently. We're gonna have to put the bottom saucer directly onto the secondary hull first, run the wiring up here through into the saucer section to come back down to meet up with everything in there, and then we will have to put the top saucer on. So the issue is that I will not have quite as much access. I'll still have a good chunk of access, but not quite as much once I put that lower saucer section on. So if we're going to get some windows blacked out, we need to do it now. Epoxy on the wires has cured, and I have now worked on feeding these lines to where they will go down the neck. And the nice thing about having two of these is you can see both sides at the same time. So what we're going to do next is we are going to chop these off here together. I've just put some shrink tube here to keep them together so I can work on them easier. So we'll cut these off. We will strip that back. We will condense those down to one line, which will leave nice and long so it goes down the neck and joins up with the interior lighting in the secondary hull. We've got 0402 SMDs installed in the lower saucer section. We've got the green and white over here, the red and white over here, and the white up front. So they have been epoxied into place. I'm now going to go through and work on feeding these wires, at least getting the first little bit of them secured down, just so that they don't get pulled or anything like that. And I've still got the top saucers to do. I haven't done those yet because I didn't quite do up enough of the white 0402 SMDs. So these ones are still doing their 24-hour test run. These ones are just sitting here ready to go into the upper saucer. But because I've got the lower saucer done, once I get these wires secured down so they won't pull and come out of their positioning, I'll be able to get the lower saucer attached to the secondary holes. I wouldn't normally do that. I would do the saucer as one fully contained unit, but because I've got this hole here where the wiring for the quantum torpedo needs to come up through the saucer and then back down, I need to put this directly onto the secondary hull. So a little bit of a different way of assembling than I normally would, but sometimes you have to come up with alternate ways to solve problems that come up in the process of building, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'll get these wires epoxied down in place, and then we will start getting that assembled onto the secondary hull. So the 0402 SMDs are fully installed and epoxied on both bottom sections, and I'm working on getting them into the top section. Here you can see there are the impulse engines, phaser array, and I've already got a couple of the white ones in the front up here. The registry number light, which actually isn't going to shine on the registry number light, it's just there for that because there needs to be a light source there. And then the one behind the bridge up here. Now, something that's really important to do just to keep everything straight so that you don't end up messing up your lights is to double check and double think through which side is which. So on the starboard side you have red on the starboard side you have green, and on the port side you have red. But if you're looking at your top saucer upside down here, because this is where you're working, it's actually going to be flipped because this is going to go on top like that. So what I like to do is mark that it's going to be a red and a green while I'm thinking it through in an accurate way, because it's so easy to look at this and go, the right side is green, but it's not right because it's flipped upside down. This one, the bottom section, is really easy to work with because when it's sitting like this, it's the right orientation, but the top is flipped. So I just mark green and red. That way I know I'm not going to accidentally put the wrong color in, because then you've got like a green on the top and a red on the bottom, and that just does not work. So just a little tip, mark them red or green or starboard, port, whatever, just so that you know when you're working on it in its upside down orientation that you don't get the wrong LED installed. And now all of the 0402 SMDs are now fully installed into both tops and both bottoms, and that marks the last of the LED installation. Now I still have to consolidate all the wires and all of that, but that'll be done during final construction, which will have to be next week because this video is way overdue being released. But just to show you which locations received 0402 SMDs, there's a green and a white, and a red and a white over here, and then the white up front, that's the bottom one. And in the top part, there's the red and the white over here, the green and the white over here, the white up here, the white for the registration light, and the white for behind the bridge. And those are all the 0402 SMDs and all of the LEDs that have to go into this model kit. Now, before I do final assembly, I will just go through and make sure that I haven't forgotten or missed anything. We will be wiring everything up together, all down through the ship and out the post. And we will see that all come together next week. And that's going to be it for this update on what's going on the bench with the two Enterprise E projects this week. I know it's been a long time since one of these came out. October is an absolutely insane month for our family, and this year it all spilled over into November. So I am finally excited to be back in the shop getting work done. So I have accomplished the goal for this update. That was to get all of the lighting installed in the model. Now there is still wire management to deal with, so everything has to be hooked up, connected, run, secured in place, down the post, everything like that. But that's going to happen in final construction, which is the goal of next week's update. Get the entire ship, well, both of them, fully assembled, and maybe even get the first bit of primer on. We'll have to see. But I am really looking forward to getting to the paint stage. On these projects, the wow factor is really in that paint detail. There's so many details across the ship, and it is amazing when that is painted. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. Just a reminder that I will be at Wonderfest coming up this next year in 2024. I will be there. I will have a booth set up so if you are going there, make sure that you do stop by, say hello. I would love to meet as many people that weekend as possible. But I do have to get there. So that brings me to a whole other thing. I have a Tesla referral link, which you'll be able to find in the description of this video, and it's also in the About section on my YouTube page. So if you would like to support my channel and you are thinking about purchasing a Tesla, then you can use my referral link. You will save money, you might get some free supercharging, and I will get some points that I can use towards free supercharging to get down to Louisville, Kentucky. So if you want to help me out that way, that will be in the description and in the About section. If you've enjoyed this update, please make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? It'll make me very happy if you do. But for now, my name is Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Have a great day, everyone.